Shalom, this is day 104. Is it 104 or is it 105? I think yesterday was 104. Yep, it's 105 of Read the Bible in a Year. And we're wrapping up 1 Kings today with chapters 20, 21, and 22. We're on page 375. Goodness. One moment. Had to blow my nose and get some coffee. So, it's hot, but it tastes good. That's all that matters, right? Okay, so we're on page 375 if you want to follow along in the scriptures, starting with chapter 20. Mind you, what we read yesterday, we began to see Elijah going up against the prophets of Baal and the God who answers by fire. That whole story, right? He proceeds to go down, start lopping heads off. Cool stuff, right? 450 prophets of Baal gone. And we ended off with him finding Elisha. So, chapter 20. And Ben-Hadad, the sovereign of Aram, gathered all his army, and there were 32 sovereigns with him, with horses and chariots, and he went up and besieged Shomeron and fought against it. And he sent messengers into the city to Ahab, sovereign of Israel, and said to him, Thus said Ben-Hadad, Your silver and your gold are mine, and your wives and your children, the best, are mine. And the sovereign of Israel answered and said, As you say, my master, O sovereign, I am yours, and all that I have. And the messengers came back and said, Thus speaks Ben-Hadad, saying, Indeed, I have sent to you, saying, Give me your silver and your gold, your wives and your children. But about this time tomorrow I shall send my servants to you, and they shall search your house and the houses of your servants, and it shall be that whatever is pleasing in your eyes they shall lay hold of and take it. And the sovereign of Israel called all the elders of the land and said, Please know and see the evil this one is seeking, for he sent to me for my wives and for my children and for my silver and for my gold, and I did not refuse him. And all the elders and all the people said to him, Do not listen nor agree. So he said to the messengers of Ben-Hadad, Say to my messenger, the sovereign, all that you sent for to your servant the first time I shall do. But this I am unable to do. And the messengers went and brought back word to him. And Ben-Hadad sent to him and said, The mighty ones do so to me, and more also, if enough dust is left of Shomeron for a handful of each of the people who follow me. And the sovereign of Israel answered and said, Speak, him who girds on his armor should not boast like him who lays it down. And it came to be, when this word was heard, as he and the sovereigns were drinking in the booths, that he said to his servants, Set yourselves. So they set themselves against the city. And see, a prophet came near to Ahab, sovereign of Israel, saying, Thus said Yahweh, Have you seen all this great company? See, I am giving it into your hand today, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. And Ahab said, By whom? And he said, Thus said Yahweh, by the young rulers of the provinces. And he said, Who opens the attack? And then he answered, You. And he mustered the young rulers of the provinces, and there were 232, and after them he mustered all the people, all the children of Israel, 7,000. And they went out at noon, while Ben-Hadad and the 32 sovereigns helping him were getting drunk in the booths. And the young rulers of the provinces went out first, and Ben-Hadad sent out, and they reported to him, saying, Men have come out of Shomeron. Then he said, If they have come out for peace, seize them alive. If they have come out for battle, seize them alive. So these young rulers of the provinces went out of the city with the army which followed them, and each struck his man, so that Arameans fled, and Israel pursued them. And Ben-Hadad, the sovereign of Aram, escaped on a horse with the horsemen. And the sovereign of Israel went out and struck the horses and the chariots, and struck the Arameans a great smiting. And the prophet came to the sovereign of Israel and said to him, Go strengthen yourself, and know and see what you should do, for at the turn of the year the sovereign of Aram is coming up against you. And the servants of the sovereign of Aram said to him, Their mighty ones are mighty ones of the hills. That is why they were stronger than we, but let us fight against them in the plain. Are we not stronger than they? Now do this, take away the sovereigns, each one from his position, and put officers in their places. And number an army like the army you have lost, horse for horse, chariot for chariot, and let us fight against them in the plain. Are we not stronger than they? And he listened to their voice and did so. And it came to be at the turn of the year that Ben-Hadad mustered the Arameans and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. And the children of Israel were mustered and were fed, and they went against them. And the children of Israel encamped before them like two little flocks of goats, while the Arameans filled the land. And there came near a man of Elohim and spoke to the sovereign of Israel and said, Thus said Yahweh, because the Arameans have said, Yahweh is Elohim of the hills, he is not Elohim of the valleys. Therefore I shall give all this company into your hand, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. And they encamped opposite each other for 7 days, and it came to be on the 7th day that the battle was joined. And the children of Israel struck 100,000 foot soldiers of the Arameans in 1 day, and those that were left fled to Aphek into the city, and the wall fell on 27,000 of the men who were left. And Ben-Hadad fled and went into the city into an inner room. And his servants said to him, See now, we have heard that the sovereigns of the house of Israel are lovingly committed sovereigns. Please, let us put on sackcloth around our waist and ropes around our heads, and go out to the sovereign of Israel. It could be that he spares your life. So they girded sackcloth on their loins and put ropes around their heads. And it came to the sovereign of Israel and said, Your servant Ben-Hadad said, Please let me live. And he said, Is he still alive? He is my brother. And the men divined, and they quickly grasped it and said, Your brother Ben-Hadad. And he said, Go bring him. So Ben-Hadad came out to him, and he let him up on the chariot. And Ben-Hadad said to him, The cities which my father took from your father I return, and set up marketplaces for yourself in Damascus, as my father did in Shomeron, or Damasek, as my father did in Shomeron. And Ahab said, I send you away with this covenant. And he made a covenant with him and sent him away. And a certain man of the sons of the prophets said to his neighbor by the word of Yahweh, Strike me, please. But the man refused to strike him. Then he said to him, because you have not obeyed the voice of Yahweh, see, as soon as you leave me, a lion shall strike you. And when he left him, a lion found him and struck him. And he found another man and said, strike me, please. So the man struck him, striking and wounding. Then the prophet went and waited for the sovereign by the way, and disguised himself with a bandage on his eyes. Wow. And as the sovereign passed away, he cried out to the sovereign and said, your servant went out into the midst of battle. And see, a man came over and brought a man to me and said, guard this man. If he should in any way be missing, your life shall be for his life, or else you shall pay a talent of silver. And it came to be, while your servant was busy here and there, he was gone, and the sovereign of Israel said to him, your judgment is right, you yourself have decided it. Then he quickly removed the bandage from his eyes, and the sovereign of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. And he said to him, thus said Yahweh, because you have let slip out of your hand a man whom I put under the ban, therefore your life shall go for his life, and your people for his people. And the sovereign of Israel went to his house, embittered and displeased, and came to Shomron. Wow. Yeah, so that prophet, he was cunning. Takes a little bit of theatrics and willingness to actually be struck by a man and wounded so that you could portray genuine wounds. Imagine the father's going to be like, yeah, you're going to go over there and you're going to ask somebody to beat the crap out of you. And then you're going to gird yourself up and go present yourself. What? Holy crap. Anyways, that's what happened. I don't make it up. I just read it. Anyways, one moment. I had to blow the old snout there. 21. And it came to be after these events that Naboth the Israelite had a vineyard which was in Israel near the place of Ahab the sovereign of Shomron. And Ahab spoke to Naboth, saying, give me your vineyard, and it shall be a vegetable garden for me, since it adjoins to my house. And let me give you a better vineyard for it. If it is good in your eyes, let me give you its worth in silver. And Naboth said to Ahab, far be it from me by Yahweh that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers to you. And Ahab went into his house embittered and was displeased of the word which Naboth the Israelite had spoken to him when he said, I do not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and did not eat. And Jezebel his wife came to him and said to him, why is your spirit so embittered that you are not eating food? And he said to her, because I spoke to Naboth the Israelite and said to him, give me your vineyard for silver. Or if you prefer, I give you another vineyard for it. But he answered, I do not give you my vineyard. So Jezebel his wife said to him, do you now rule over Israel? Rise up, eat food, and let your heart be glad. Let me give you the vineyard of Naboth the Israelite. Then she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters to the elders and the nobles who were dwelling in the city with Naboth. And she wrote in the letters, saying, proclaim a fast, and seat Naboth at the head of the people, and seat 2 men, sons of Belial, before him, to bear witness against him, saying, you have blessed Elohim, the sovereign. Then you shall take him and stone him to death. Blessed Elohim, the sovereign. And the men of his city, the elders and the nobles were the inhabitants of his city, did as Jezebel had sent them, as it was written in the letters which she had sent them. They proclaimed a fast and seated Naboth at the head of the people. And the men, sons of Belial, came in and sat before him, and the men of Belial witnessed against him, against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth has blessed Elohim and the sovereign. So they took him outside the city and stoned him with stones, and he died. So I'm wondering what the significance of that. Why is it worthy? Well, there's something there, like he claiming that he blessed the Father and the sovereign. Like which sovereign? I don't understand this necessarily. And they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned and is dead. Verse 15. And it came to be, when Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth, the Israelite, which he refused to give you for silver, for Naboth is not alive, but dead. And it came to be, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose to go down to take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Israelite. And the word of Yahweh came to Eliahu the Tishbite, saying, Rise up, go down to meet Ahab, sovereign of Israel, who lives in Shomron. See, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone down to take possession of it. And you shall speak to him, saying, Thus said Yahweh, have you murdered and also take possession? And you shall speak to him, saying, Thus said Yahweh, in the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth, the dogs are going to lick your blood, even yours. And Ahab said to Eliahu, Have you found me, O my enemy? And he answered, I have found you, because you have sold yourself to do evil in the eyes of Yahweh. See, I am bringing evil on you, and shall consume your descendants, and cut off from Ahab every male in Israel, both those shut up and those left at large, and make your house like the house of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha, son of Ahiah, because of the provocation with which you have provoked me and made Israel sin. And also of Jezebel, Yahweh has spoken, saying, The dogs are going to eat Jezebel by the wall of Israel. The dogs are going to eat whoever belongs to Ahab and dies in the city. And the birds of the heavens are going to eat whoever dies in the field. Indeed, there never was anyone like Ahab, who sold himself to do evil in the eyes of Yahweh, because Jezebel, his wife, stirred him up. And he acted very abominably in following idols, according to all that the Amorites had done, whom Yahweh dispossessed from before the children of Israel. And it came to be, when Ahab heard those words, that he tore his garments and put sackcloth on his body, and fasted, and lay in sackcloth, and went softly. And the word of Yahweh came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, See how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he had humbled himself before me, I do not bring the evil in his days, but in the days of his son I bring the evil on his house. And chapter 22. It's like 2 pages long. So we're doing good. We're all right. Drinking coffee first, though. And they continued 3 years without fighting between Aram and Israel. And it came to be in the 3rd year that Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Judah, came down to the sovereign of Israel. And the sovereign of Israel said to his servants, Do you know that Ramoth in Gilead is ours? and we are keeping silent from taking it out of the hand of the sovereign of Aram. And he said to Jehoshaphat, do you go with me to battle at Ramoth Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said to the sovereign of Israel, I am as you are, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. And Jehoshaphat said to the sovereign of Israel, please first inquire for the word of Yahweh. And the sovereign of Israel gathered the prophets, about 400 men, and said to them, do I go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or do I refrain? And they said, go up, for Yahweh does give it into the hand of the sovereign. And Jehoshaphat said, is there not here a prophet of Yahweh besides that? A prophet of Yahweh besides that we might inquire of him. And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, there is still one man, Mikayehu, son of Yimlah, to inquire of Yahweh by him, but I hate him, because he does not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. And Jehoshaphat said, let not the sovereign say so. So the sovereign of Israel called an officer and said, bring Mikayehu, son of Yimlah, at once. And the sovereign of Israel and Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Judah, were sitting, each on his throne, dressed in their robes, on the threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Shomeron. And all the prophets were prophesying before them. And Zedekiah, son of Kena'anah, had made horns of iron for himself and said, thus said Yahweh, with these you push the Arameans until they are destroyed. And all the prophets were prophesying, so saying, go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for Yahweh shall give it into the hand of the sovereign. And the messenger who had gone to call Mikayehu spoke to him, saying, see now the words of the prophets with one mouth are good toward the sovereign. Please let your word be like the word of one of them, and you shall speak good. And Mikayehu said, as Yahweh lives, whatever Yahweh says to me, that I speak. And he came to the sovereign, and the sovereign said to him, Mikayehu, do we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or do we refrain? And he answered him, go and prosper, for Yahweh shall give it into the hand of the sovereign. And the sovereign said to him, how many times have I made you swear that you do not speak to me except the truth in the name of Yahweh? So he said, I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains, as sheep that have no shepherd. And Yahweh said, these have no master. Let everyone return to his house in peace. And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I have not said to you that he would not, or have I not said to you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? And he said, therefore hear the word of Yahweh. I saw Yahweh sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of the heavens standing by him, on his right and on his left. And Yahweh said, who shall entice Ahab to go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And this one said this, and another said that. And the Spirit came forward and stood before Yahweh and said, let me entice him. And Yahweh said to him, in what way? And he said, I shall go out and be a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, entice him, and also prevail. Go out and do so. And now see, Yahweh has put a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of all these prophets of yours, and Yahweh has spoken evil concerning you. And Zedekiah, son of Kena'anah, came near and struck Micaiah on the cheek and said, "Where did the Spirit of Yahweh pass over from me to speak to you?" And Micaiah said, "Look, you shall see on that day when you go into the inner room to hide." And the sovereign of Israel said, "Take Micaiah and return him to Amon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, son of the sovereign, and say, Thus said the Yahweh, put this one in prison, and feed him with bread of affliction and water of affliction until I come in peace." And Micaiah said, "If you ever return in peace, Yahweh has not spoken by me." And he said, "Hear, all you people." And the sovereign of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the sovereign of Judah went up to Ramoth Gilead. And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "Let me disguise myself and go into battle, but you put on your robes." So the sovereign of Israel disguised himself and went into battle. And the sovereign of Aram had commanded 32 commanders of his chariots, saying, "Fight with no one small or great, but only the sovereign of Israel." Sorry. Kid's alarm going off, and I'm not ready for them to wake up. And the sovereign, verse 31, and the sovereign of Aram had commanded 32 commanders of his chariots, saying, "Fight with no one small or great, but only with the sovereign of Israel." And it came to be, when the commanders of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, "Indeed, it is the sovereign of Israel." So they turned aside to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out. And it came to be, when the commanders of the chariots saw that it was not the sovereign of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. And the man drew a bow in his simplicity and struck the sovereign of Israel between the joints of his armor. And he said to the driver of his chariot, "Turn around and take me out of the battle, for I am wounded." And the battle increased that day, and the sovereign was propped up in his chariot facing the Arameans, and died at evening, and the blood ran out from the wound onto the floor of the chariot. And as the sun was going down, a shout passed through the camp, saying, "Each to his city, and each to his land." So the sovereign died and was brought to Shomeron, and they buried the sovereign in Shomeron. And when the chariot was washed at the pool of Shomeron, the dogs licked up his blood, where the whores bathed, according to the words of Yahweh which he had spoken. And the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did in the ivory house which he built, and all the cities that he built, are they not written in the book of Annals in the sovereigns of Israel? So Ahab slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah, his son, reigned in his place. And Jehoshaphat, son of Asa, began to reign over Judah in the 4th year of Ahab, sovereign of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became sovereign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shili. And he walked in the ways of his father Asa, and did not turn aside from them, doing what is right in the eyes of Yahweh. Only the high places were not taken away, for the people slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Jehoshaphat made peace with the sovereign of Israel. And the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, and the might that he showed, and how he fought, are they not written in the book of the Annals of the sovereigns of Judah? And the rest of the cult prostitutes who remained in the days of his father Asa, he cleared out from the land. And there was then no sovereign in Edom. A deputy was sovereign. Jehoshaphat made Tarshish ships to go to Ophir for gold. However, they did not go, for the ships were wrecked at Etzion Geber. Then Ahaziah, son of Ahab, said to Jehoshaphat, "Let my servants go with your servants in the ships." But Jehoshaphat would not. So Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. And Jehoram his son reigned in his place. And Ahaziah, son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Shomeron in the 17th year of Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Judah, and reigned 2 years over Israel, and did evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and walked in the way of his father, and in the way of his mother, and in the way of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin, and served Baal, and bowed himself to it, and provoked Yahweh Elohim of Israel according to all that his father had done. All right, and that is the end of 1 Kings. Shalom.